senators, people on the Assembly have co-sponsorship, actually have support from various groups going forward. But briefly, as chair of the Senate Committee on Environmental Conservation for these last 16 months, I've advanced a number of reforms that you may be aware of in the past, aiming at protecting the environment from sponsoring New York's water withdrawal legislation that ensures compliance with the Great Lakes Compact, to advocating for enhancing our Environmental Protection Fund. Nonetheless, I've encountered no single environmental issue as critical, controversial, and important as high-volume hydraulic fracturing that is in process right now. Since becoming chairman, I have not advocated for or against hydraulic fracturing. I have taken the time to better understand the nature of this complex drilling operation, the extent of the environmental impacts, as well as the potential benefits for the state's economy. As you know, I've held public hearings. I've attended and participated with the DEC in their hearings, as well as observed the Assembly hearings on this topic. And I've had extensive meetings, many with individuals from this room themselves, and with other people regarding this issue. So basically people on both sides of this issue. Making an impulsive decision at the behest of one side or another is not fair, would not produce the appropriate results, but I eagerly await the DEC's final evaluation of the potential environmental impacts and proposals for preventing and minimizing the risk of threats associated with hydrofracking if it goes forward. I am confident from my conversations with Commissioner Joe Martens of the DEC and from reading supplemental SGIS reports that, in my opinion, will probably finalize in about 6 to 8 months. And I commend the Commissioner and his leadership and thank him and his staff from the DEC. Prior to him getting there, for the last 2 years, now 3 years, there has been extensive work done with regards to this process. The DEC ultimately will decide to allow whether or not this moves forward. But in the meantime, I strongly believe additional environmental safeguards are needed. Basically, the 5 bills that you have, and some of you may have in front of you, and based on my review of the draft SGIS report, not the final report, that's the initial draft, and discussions with groups such as yourself, putting that information together from what we had at our hearings, I'm announcing today I've introduced a package of 5 bills that will, in my opinion, will protect the environment should this go forward. These are flaws that I see right now in the SGIS report. First bill would prohibit public-owned treatment works from accepting wastewater associated with the exploration, delineation, development, or production of natural gas. So no public facility, no public treatment facility, including Niagara Falls and the city of Tonawanda that accept industrial waste, will not be allowed to accept this flowback water. Also, second, and that's under Bill S6893. Second bill prohibits the use of wastewater for road and land spraying. Right now, they take the brine, they take this water, and they use it for dust control, and they use it for salt purposes, for spreading. That's under Bill S6895. That would be prohibited. Next bill, under Senate S6892, there is a medical waste tracking system that is in the SGIS program in the supplemental report. There is talk of possibly moving that to a hazardous waste program. But I am saying that as it stands right now, that you create this oil and gas waste tracking program that is stronger than the tracking program that is proposed under the supplemental draft. If you're going to call it medical waste, you have to track it as if it's hazardous waste. So that is right now under Senate Bill 6892. Also, under Senate Bill 6891, strengthen notification requirements for unauthorized wastewater discharges. What this basically means is under the supplemental SGIS report, they have a 24-hour time period on when to report a spill if this process moves forward and there is a spill. That is not acceptable. There is actually already in place for petroleum or oil spills a 2-hour notification process. That's what I'm advocating for here. Also, under Senate Bill 6894, you create a GIS system. This is a recommendation from the EPA. You create a geographic information system to provide information to the public concerning gas and oil exploration. What this bill means is that if this process moves forward, you will know where the wells are, what process the wells are in, when they're going to be completed, and it gives a tracking system for that as well. These particular bills are co-sponsored by Senator Stephen Saland and Senator Tony Avella. Senator Saland is in the Republican Senate. Senator Tony Avella is on the Democratic Senate, and he's also on the Environmental Conservation Committee. I have reached out to Assemblyman Robert Sweeney, who is also the chair of the Assembly Environmental Conservation Committee, and he is looking at these bills as well. This legislation, these 5 bills, at the present time where they stand, have been introduced for the next committee meeting. This above legislation has been endorsed by the following environmental groups: Citizens Campaign for the Environment, Earthworks, Environmental Advocates of New York, and Natural Resource Defense Council. So at our next Senate committee meeting, which will probably take place, I think, either the first or second week when we come back, either the week of the 17th or the week of the 23rd, is when these bills will go through the committee floor. I've talked, as I said, to numerous senators and numerous people in the Assembly, and to me, and having hearings with regards, from what I've heard from people, these are some bills that I wanted to introduce to move forward. With that said, does the media have any questions?
Yes, Senator, I know you said that you're in the middle right now.
Right.
Do you feel these 5 bills are enough? Could there be more?
Well, once the final SGIS report is done, we will see what that report says. These bills that I'm going on right now are what I seem to be either something that is not addressed or a flaw with regards to the supplemental SGIS report. In particular, some of the conversations that I've had, in particular, are we do not want our publicly owned treatment facility plants or those that accept industrial waste to be able to carry this product. There are private facilities that are actually being built in southern Pennsylvania. What that does basically is, you're talking about hundreds of trucks transporting throughout your roads, your infrastructure, in certain areas to actually try to treat this water. I don't believe the process is there, so that's why there's a particular ban. Right now, we have a regulatory ban on hydrofracking, high-volume hydrofracking, as it takes place right now. There's no money in the budget for it. The governor hasn't made any statements on it. The DEC is finishing with between 40 and 50,000 comments. Once those are done, we will see what additional requirements are needed. I mean, we don't know what the final end result of this report is going to be. It could say that high-volume hydrofracking is not going to take place in New York State. It could say it is going to take place, but we don't know what these safeguards are going to be.
But Niagara Falls, I mean, the water treatment plant up in Niagara Falls and in Tonawanda, I mean, they have the capabilities to treat this water, right?
In my opinion, they do not have the capabilities. They can pre-treat it. They can pre-treat it, but we don't want the end result of their pre-treatment to then be dumped in the lower Niagara Gorge, and then it goes off to Lake Ontario. So there are pretty high standards that would have to be shown if you can go ahead and treat this particular product. Now, I've met, as I said, with the individuals that are building a private treatment facility plant in southern Pennsylvania. They seem to have a way that they claim that they can treat this flowback water. It is something that they're doing or testing right now. Their plan is not completed. They are talking about building an additional plant in Erie, Pennsylvania, one in Ohio. They don't have any goals right now, they say, to build any private treatment facility plant in New York State.
Senator, if the water that would be trucked and treated in Niagara Falls, or at least what you'd rather have in southern Pennsylvania, if that is so toxic, why should the state even consider the practice of allowing practice?
Well, the point is that as it stands right now, even though Niagara Falls is an industrial treatment facility and they can only pre-treat, I'm not convinced that they can get rid of all the chemicals that are involved in that particular process. Okay? So until they can do that, until they can show they can do that, they can apply and get this done. Okay? There's standards that will have to be met. As far as the process as a whole, my concern right now is basically with the flowback water. Right now, what they're doing in Pennsylvania is they used to go ahead and recycle this water twice and then dump it. And they would dump it in Ohio in abandoned wells. Right now, they are using, or I would say they are actually keep utilizing this water, but there's still an end product that is going to be eventually at the end of each fractured well. There's an end product. What we're saying is that particular water cannot be utilized here. As far as what's going to go on in the future with regards to the entire process, that we'll have to see after the SGIS report is completed. it would be premature to make a decision right now on this is supplemental draft until everything's done. What I've seen in the supplemental draft, though, with regards to these particular issues, is something that I feel strongly about. And we're not saying that that there's not going to be additional legislation, but these are areas that we've had negotiations and talking with environmentalist groups that have said, and these are the ones that I've listed. These are the top environmentalist groups in New York State have said that these are information that we would like to see move forward with some legislation. So that's what we did.
Senator, basically, again, you said you're still in the middle on this, but obviously there's folks here who have banned fracking now signed right in front of you. I mean, I guess they want you to be on this side, but what do you want to tell them as they sit here in front of you?
And there are people here that I've met with, and they know that I've met with them, and I've kept a very open door policy. As I said, this is a very contentious issue, and it's an issue that in my opinion, until that final SGIS report is done, right now we're focused on specific legislation. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. Right now there is a regulatory ban. They're not issuing permits. At the present time, there's no funding in the budget, and I believe these groups, that they know this. So that's where we stand at the present time. It's preliminary. It's too early to tell.
But you have had support from groups that oppose hydrofracking. You yourself personally.
Yes, I mean, if you take a look at the groups that I mentioned, environmental advocates, Natural Resource Defense Council, Citizens Campaign for the Environment, those are very strong groups in New York State.
On that also, but you also have received funding from pro-fracking groups, right? Just to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the amount of funding, I mean, it was reported in the paper, I think a few weeks ago, that I received about $1,500. I think that was a report in the paper. I don't know off the top of my head how much money actually has been donated, but donating money to me does not put me one way or another on a specific issue.
Okay, can you describe your relationship to Park Strategies and Joel Giambra?
No, that has nothing to do with this press conference.
Okay, then may I ask you just about one of these bills, this first one here, 6891. The general idea, where is it? To require notification within 2 hours by any person causing discharge of substances associated with natural gas production, associated with fracking. Why would someone who had dumped this fluid, so the onus to report it is by the person who dumped it?
No, what it's talking about is that there's dumping or a spill. You have to remember, these bills are all in conjunction with one another. These are all being tracked. There's a tracking system that goes into place. What this particular bill has to do with is that if there's a spill, or let's say an accident or something along those lines, the supplemental SGIS report talks for a 24-hour notification. We're saying that there's already one in place for a 2-hour notification system. You don't need to wait 24 hours.
But I'm just as I read this, though, I mean, because we've seen all kinds of, videos on the web of trucks, spraying this fluid and so on. Sometimes there have been places where trucks have gone up and dumped it in the woods.
They would not be able to do that because there is a tracking system that is part of another bill where as soon as you pick up any of this material, if this procedure does go forward, it's tracked. It's tracked from the beginning to the end, from where it started from until where it goes. You cannot take that truck and go in the woods and dump it. It's tracked.
Okay, so
this is if there's an accident. Like, I'll give you an example. When there's an accident on the thruway, or there's an accident with regards to any specific site, environmentally, they only have 24 hours to report. What I'm saying is for specific petroleum and oil spills, there's a 2-hour system already in place. I'm saying with this particular material, moving to the 2 hours does not have to be 24 hours.
Okay, and it'll be tracked over the state lines where it's going to be shipped because we're not receiving any of it?
It would be tracked from beginning to end, yes, no matter where it goes. And we're not going to receive it in these legislations to any publicly owned treatment facility plants in the state. So it's going to go out of state if this process moves forward.
Senator, since you introduced this yesterday, where do you go from here?
Basically through my committee out onto the Senate floor, talking to Assemblyman Sweeney and other members of the Assembly to move it forward. If they pass it in her House, then on to the governor to see if he would go ahead and sign it.
Right, and I know that it's still early in the game here. There's
Right.
no hydrofracking going on right now.
That's correct.
So, I mean,
Or
put
these
rules- to put rules
these
in
bills could
place.
these bills could actually be added if necessary to the final SGIS report. That would be something that would be, in my opinion, that would be actually easier. But until that's done, I wanted to introduce these bills, and I've had actually had conversation with Commissioner Martens and gave him copies of these bills, and he said that he would bring it to the team as far as either submitting it into the SGIS report or passing the normal course of passing legislation.
So you wanted to get these bills signed into law just in case beforehand,
Correct.
before any hydrofracking takes place.
Before the final SGIS report is actually done.
Senator, you met with a lot of these groups. Which of their concerns sticks most in your mind? Which parts of the issue concern?
They want an absolute, you can see by the signs, they want an absolute moratorium on high volume hydrofracking. At the present time, there is a regulatory ban, it's not being done, which is why it's not an issue with any of these bills here. The process is not being done at this point in New York State.
But I mean, what parts of the fracking issue in general concern you the most? You said the discharge of the water. Are there any other elements of it that?
You know, it's when you look at the whole process, I mean, some of the regulations that are in place right now, there were accidents, there were things that were done in Dimmock, Pennsylvania, and other parts of Pennsylvania. In my opinion, and people may disagree with this, the regulations that New York State actually has in place wouldn't even allow us to drill in Dimmock, Pennsylvania. So that instance wouldn't even, not even happen. The regulations that we have proposed are stronger than those that are what's in Pennsylvania at the present time. What happens in the future, I don't know. Until you see the final report in about 6 to 8 months. But you know, the concern for me when I had the hearings on the Canandaigua was the acceptance, and I believe you know, people's concern was about, you know, where are you going to treat this water? We don't want this water treated because in plain terms, you have the hydrocarbons that are in some of these chemicals destroy the microorganisms that actually help the treatment plant to even treat regular wastewater that you have in your house every day. So you do not want to sabotage the system. So, anything else from the media?
Yeah, I mean, what about like the nuclear radioactive components in the wastewater that's brought up from the fracking? There isn't really any way to treat that. Regardless whether it's a well, I mean, the best advice from experts that I've spoken with is you have to remove it from the face of the earth, put it deep underground, which is now shown to cause earthquakes.
Yeah, I've seen those reports out of Ohio, but as I said,
it's more widespread than Ohio. It's from like the northwest to.
Right, as I said, in southern Pennsylvania, where they're actually doing this private treatment facility plant, you know, from what I've seen, they feel that they have the capability of actually treating this fluid. Now, they're in the beginning phases, but, you know, it's kind of off topic of what we're talking about here. We're saying it's not going to be treated in New York State.
No,
So
but
radiation,
radiation,
I have no control.
could, you know, a problem in Japan with radiation causes problems for people in California. I mean, the radioactive question is how will that be?
My understanding is that on the radioactivity issue, when they do have some of this flowback water, like they did in Pennsylvania, sitting in those holding ponds, which will not be any holding ponds in New York State if this move forward, by them sitting there, the concentration of the radioactivity actually gets higher, and it gets higher than the amount that is allowable. So that is not an issue that's going to take place in New York State as far as water sitting there. So, okay? All right, that's all I have for today. I have to be in another meeting. I'm sorry because I started late because I was waiting for media. I accept those answering questions from the public.
No, you haven't yet.
Yeah.
Can I just ask something real quick? I just want to say, obviously, it sounds like this whole thing is going to go forward. You already made proposals and bills and whatnot. If it's such a big deal on both sides of the whatever, would it be unreasonable to address it to the public, to put it on a ballot, to let the people decide?
Yeah.
health impact assessments that are done in other states. It's very difficult to do a health impact or health assessment in New York State on a process that isn't being done here. How are you going to do a health risk assessment on high-volume hydrofracking in New York when it's not being done?
But it's being done.
So they are reviewing it, and they are reviewing those assessments in other states and moving forward. So we're not saying it isn't going to be done. We're just saying at the present they're reviewing what's being done.
People have to die or get sick before something's done about it.
Well,
Yeah.
I disagree. I disagree.
People have been injured by this before
You
something's done.
keep saying that it's not going to be treated here, so that's really not part of the topic. But I'm under the impression that we're all human beings, and whether it's treated here or not, it's another state in our country that it's going to be treated in, and people are going to get sick and die.
Yeah.
So how can we just pass the buck and say, well, it's not going to happen here, so we're going to move forward with our end of it?
Where I am right now, because I'm chair of the New York State Environmental Conservation Committee. What Pennsylvania does, what Ohio does, what they do in Texas or Colorado, I don't have any control over what
But
they
if
do.
we move forward here, we're helping create illness and, desolated cities.
They're doing high-volume hydrofracking that's permitted in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, and numerous other states
So
right
as a
now.
senator, you should be putting your foot down, and instead of making laws that are going to make it a little safer, say, I do not want fracking, and I'm going to continue to work for banning fracking, not.
Well, like I said, we don't know what the final SGIS report is going to come out to be.
Most of it's proprietary, what they use for doing hydrofracking.
Right.
How will the people that are cleaning up and know what they're getting?
My
You
understanding-
have enough know-how to bring.
My understanding is they are working on disclosure legislation. That's my understanding. So, okay, I got to go to another meeting.
Governor Cuomo has protected the New York City watershed and the Syracuse watershed. Both the DEC and Governor Cuomo said that they won't allow fracking in the New York City area or in the Syracuse area. Why are you wanting them to do it over here in Western New York?
Right.
If they've already said that it's too
There is no
dangerous.
high-volume hydrofracking that would take place in Western New
But
York.
there is vertical fracking, and they destroyed the water in some homes in towns in Europe.
You know,
So
vertical fracking has been done for decades already. It's already been done
Not
for
this way.
decades.
Wait, you didn't answer the
Vertical fracking
question.
has been done for decades. And there is no
Vertical fracking,
high-volume
but not with all the
hydrofracking being
chemicals.
done in Western New York.
The
I
question,
got to go to another meeting.
the question is, why would they do it if it's not okay for New York City?
If you would like, you can make an appointment. I've never denied anybody appointments. You can make an appointment with my staff that's here, and we can sit down and discuss it. But I got to. You can make an appointment right now. You can make an appointment.
Same thing over and over.
I'm making an appointment.
Make an appointment, quick.
We're gonna make an appointment.
If he gets money, it's gonna get passed.
Yeah, I think so. One meeting a day.
That's why this, did you start already?
I know.
They don't care about human beings.
You can make an appointment with my staff.
It's all about money, that's all it is.
Thank you for representing the best interests of the people.
Yeah, thank you for representing us. Really love it.
His constituency base. He won't talk to the people, but he'll talk to the corporate checker.
Okay.
Two on there, and then they can all just sit
That's what
there.
I wanted